So with that, I want to bring up our speaker today. I'm very excited to have Peter Kraft and Bernie Yanelli from St. Stephen's, speaking about what's going on with the school and speaking about artificial intelligence. And with that, I'd like to call up Peter Kraft, one of our newer members here in the club.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks to Andy for inviting us. I got to tell you, though, it's a misnomer that I'm speaking today because the topic's AI, which I know about that much about. So when I was invited, I immediately deferred to Bernie, who immediately deferred to Charles, whom I'll introduce in a second, who immediately deferred ultimately to Oliver Moudry, our student doing the work, which is really the way it ought to work. It's really about the young people. It's not about old guys like me. Here's why I'm really here, though. We've put together a program that not only are we proud of at St. Stephen's, but we want you to know that after using this summer as a demo, our goal is to give kids in the greater Bradenton community who wouldn't necessarily always have an opportunity like this to do it next summer. So what our job today to do is to hopefully teach you a little bit about AI. I'm learning right alongside with you. And then if you say, wow, that's really interesting, and you have a young person in your life, your career, your network that you think could benefit from that, let us know. We want that young person at this program to learn and hopefully to make a difference in the community. AI, when I at least hear the word, I often think about one of two or three things. Either, wow, it's basically high-tech plagiarism, or wow, it's kind of replace all the humans that we know with robots, or isn't this really just another crutch that makes people have to get out of the house less or do less kind of one-on-one? What you'll hear today, though, is the response to that. That all can and perhaps even sometimes is true. But it's also, as Saul Kahn says, probably the most powerful tutor that's ever been created. And one of the most extraordinary, use some educational language, differentiator. The ability to help kids meet kids wherever they are and help them learn in a way that really makes sense to them. So I'm delighted to introduce Bernie Yanelli, who came to St. Stephen's in 2002. He is a businessman and a gentleman extraordinaire. After a long career at the Bank of Boston and a number of other Fortune 500 companies, he really followed his passion and decided he wanted to teach. And we every day reap the benefits of that. And we reap the benefits of the generations who came from Bernie's classroom, like Charles, who is a graduate of St. Stephen's in 2009, got his economics degree at Boston College, and then went to work with Apple, and at a very young age became really a leader in that company, particularly a leader by teaching others how to work. And he and Emily, who's over there videoing this, and others have created the program that you're going to see. And again, they're paying it forward because Oliver, a senior, just recently came to St. Stephen's from Portland, is an example of what, in a reasonably short period of time, a young person can do once they get this technology and these opportunities in their hands. And as you'll see, he's using this as a power for good. He's using AI to be something that can help other kids who may have struggles learning. And without that, without further ado, I'm going to stand down and give you Bernie. Thanks for having us.
Before I begin my brief remarks, I want to have Henry Lawrence stand up. I have not seen Henry in several years, and about 6 or 7 years ago, I wrote a play. I met Henry at a festival, at a film festival that honored Henry and Ralph and some of the great players at Lincoln Memorial, and I was so inspired. I went up to Henry and I said, I'm a teacher at St. Stephen's, I'm an amateur playwright, and if you're interested, I'd love to write your story. And I said, I'd give you, I'm not planning to make any money off of this, but if I make any, you can get half. And he looked down at me and said, you sure I can trust you? And I looked up and I said, do you think I'm going to try to screw over a man your size? And so that was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. And the play was well received, and it really celebrated a great American hero. So thank you, Henry. So I'm going to ask and answer 3 basic questions. Why do I teach? how do I teach economics, and why am I living the good life that I decided upon 44 years ago when I turned 21. So I teach for two basic reasons. When I was 7, my father passed away of a heart attack and left my mother with 4 kids. She was 31 years old, had 4 kids between the ages of 2 and 9. No money, no job skills, and it was pretty chaotic for several years. And without realizing it, I started attracting mentors by that time I was 8 years old. And I've been still attracting, I still today continue to attract mentors. Charles, who's half my age, is mentoring me in all sorts of things. And the number of philosophical conversations we've had over the years is astounding. He's literally our 3rd son. So basically I teach because I'm repaying debts to mentors. I turned 65 a few months ago, and I like to think I have more energy than half the men my age. And if that's true, it's because these debts I have to repay are real. When I walk my 2-3 miles every morning, I usually pick a mentor or two, and I just try to focus on that mentor and think about all the good things that he has done for me. And it's a great feeling to have. The second reason, and obviously connected, is that my faith has taught me that God put me on this earth for a reason. And my favorite optimistic, or the most optimistic verse of the Bible, I'm convinced, is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called to it according to his purpose. And I had this notion back in my early 20s that my purpose was to teach. Now, because of the financial insecurity I grew up with, I knew I needed to make a few shekels before I launched into that career. And so after I left the late, great Bank of Boston, I was hired by a highbrow restaurant company called Chuck E. Cheese. Perhaps some of you have heard of that. And so, believe it or not, I traveled. I've been to all 50 states and over 25 countries, and spent a lot of time eating Chuck E. Cheese pizza. I looked at some old pictures, said to my wife, I got chubby. Why didn't you say, hey, chubby boy, have an apple or something? But all that pizza took its toll, but I've lost that weight, thank God. But there's something about teaching that just drew me forward, and I'm proud to say, and I'm probably jinxing myself, but in 19 years, I have not missed a day of work because of illness at St. Stephen's. It's a remarkable place, and we're very, very happy to have Peter at the helm. And we always appreciate what Jan Pullen did, but Peter's the new guy in town, and he's an entrepreneur in spirit, and so we're very, very happy. So thank you, Peter. Now, I've had a guest series speakers in the 22 years I've been teaching, starting back my first 3 years in Dallas, Texas, and I'm really proud of that, and I've had some great guest speakers, including Andy Miner, of all people. So one of the things that Andy was interested by, he told me, was that when I teach economics, I go through all of the basic concepts, the laws of supply and demand, opportunity cost, marginal benefits, fiscal and monetary policy. But I try to spend as little time on that as possible, because the real joy for teaching is that I bring in current events. And so on the first day of school, my students, I will throw a Wall Street Journal on their desk and say, find an article of interest in you and analyze it. And they'll have an analysis sheet. We're going to have to identify the thesis, break down the argument, tell me if there's a counter argument. And I always tell the students to read the conclusion before you read anything else, trying to work on their critical reading and writing skills and their logical reasoning skills. And then when they get used to the Wall Street Journal, I throw down a copy of The Economist, which I've been reading since 1981 when I was a junior in college. And I remember in 1981 when the national debt hit $1 trillion. I'll never forget that day. And it sounded like the world is upon us. And God bless us today, because we're approaching 35 trillion. But we do the same thing. We break down the lead article, and we're trying to make sure my students, or our students, know how to recognize a good argument, see the flaws in an argument, and recognize the confirmation bias that's invariably in a lot of the things we hear and read. And just a little pitch for Andy and his firm. Andy's not my financial advisor, only because I've had a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch in Dallas, Texas for 30 years, but Andy gave me this little handout. So one of the things I do is we're going to this year be engaged in the University of Pennsylvania stock market game, and I told my students they get to pick one stock by 10 shares of one stock until they can read a balance sheet, an income statement, and a cash flow statement, and do the analysis and understand key ratios. My favorite key ratio, and Andy and I were just talking about NVIDIA. I think I bought about $100 a share less than Andy, so, that makes me feel just a little good, Andy. Just the last little quip. Because I love to look at things like the debt to market cap ratio. These are ratios as a banker that I focused on a lot. And these are the kinds of things, when I hear my students walking down the hallway talking about P ratios and dividend yields, I know I've done my job. We also work on two things, financial independence and psychological independence. And we read from the Power of Habit. We read from Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And oldies but goldies are goodies like Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street. So I try to make the class as practical as I can, and I have a blast. Even you would think after teaching the same class for 22 years, it would be boring. It's not, because I'm always bringing in current events. So last but not least, I've always been intrigued by Socrates. And I've never admitted this, and I know this is a public forum, but my first philosophy paper in college, I earned a C. And I was stunned, and the paper was comparing Socrates to Jesus Christ. And my professor, I didn't know at the time, was an atheist. And he said, do you really believe this stuff? Do you really see this comparison? And I said, what is it to you? I didn't say that, but I was thinking that. You should be reading this objectively. And one of the things that the conclusion was that these are two men, one secular, one religious and Christian, who gave their lives for a cause they believed in, right? And that's important. I think we have to keep reminding our students, our sons and daughters, of those who gave great sacrifices. Well, Socrates basically said the following. The only way you can live a good life is if you define it for yourself. Now, most of us are older, and we weren't subjected to social media. It's harder and harder today, I can tell you, by teaching students, over maybe 1,500 students over the years, to get these kids to think about their identities and how they were formed, and what does it mean to be psychologically independent. We know what financial independence is, and it's easy to define and hard to achieve, but psychological independence is a tough thing to define. And so we look at it and breaking down, how was your identity formed to date? With me, it was easy. Before I turned 14, it was family, faith, and friends. And then, of course, it was girls, soccer, music, and other distractions, but I survived those. And I'm leading the good life in accordance with Warren Buffett as well, who basically said if you get two decisions right, just two, your spouse and your career, then almost all the other problems you might have in your life will wash away pretty quickly. There's my lovely bride. We've been married 39 years, Marlena. Wave to the crowd. And I get to work at St. Stephen's. I'm 65 and can't wait to go to work every day. So, and one of the reasons is because of guys like Charles Dew, who's going to come up next. Charles came and lived with our family for 2 weeks when we were living on Siesta Key. And my wife was a little leery about bringing in a foreign student she had never met. And every day for 2 weeks, he said, Mrs. It's the best steak I've ever had, the best chicken, the best pizza, the best pasta. And without any questioning, she just said, he can stay. He not only stayed for 2 years, but on his way out the door after graduation, he turned around and looked back at Marlena and me and said, don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Zanelli, I'll be back for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he was, and he was, and he was, and he was. And I remember shutting the door and said, I guess we adopted Charles. And good thing we did, because he's been an extraordinary part of our family. The first time he met my mother and her second husband, he said, hi, Grandma and Grandpa, I'm Charles, your new grandson. And he has been. He would bring Dom Perignon with his parents and a dozen flowers or roses for my wife and my mother. And he flew back from Shanghai for a long weekend just to celebrate my mother's 80th birthday, which is 9 years ago. So we are so blessed to have him as part of our lives. And just to segue into the camp, when Charles told me, I want you to play a role, and he gave me a quotation from Steve Jobs, who said, I would give up all of my technology for an afternoon with Socrates. I was hooked. And I thought this is fantastic. So we've been working in addition to AI and entrepreneurship, financial and economic literacy, psychological independence, and we had 2 great weeks. Peter was there for the presentations, and fortunately he wasn't there an hour and a half before the presentations where the kids couldn't remember what their names were. They were getting nervous, and so by the end it was a spectacular group, and we're happy to do it 2 more times. And just to iterate something Peter said, we want to reach out into the community. We've given over $10,000 of scholarships to people outside of St. Stephen's in the community to make sure that we can involve the community as much as possible. Next year, we'll do even a better job. And Henry, you better hold me to that. Thank you very much. Charles Dew.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wake you up. The more of the story is that don't invite me to your house for dinner. I'll end up staying forever. All right. So my name is Charles Du, and it's a pleasure and honor to be here. I'll keep things light, and just raise your hand if you have a question, and I'll do the mission impossible today, is give you a 5 minutes breakdown of what large language model really is at the end of the Q&A. So no explanation before the Q&A. All right. So this is the camp we put together. We call it LEAP. That's liberal arts, entrepreneurship, and AI. So very convenient. Before we dive into the program, I have to say, I do read American news from time to time. And this is kind of what it says, right? All the things you worry about AI. You know, we also have this kind of concerns with our students. So at the beginning of the camp, we ask them, you know, have you seen Blade Runner, Terminator, you know, Up? We tend to humanize machines and technology quite a bit. And there's always the right concern to be had, existential crisis to be talked about. But what we're trying to do with the student here is really give them first-hand experience, hands-on experience with technology. I tend to think sometimes social discourse is a bit far-fetched from reality. So that's what we're trying to do. And let's look at, this might be a magazine that some of you read from time to time, The Economist. In the past 2 years, these are the titles The Economist dedicated to the topic of AI. As you see, there's quite a bit. This should pique your interest, right? How many of you think you have AI as an active part of your life every day? Raise your hand, please. Wow, you all score 100 on the quiz. My presentation is over. I'm going to pass it on to someone else. Yes, AI is everywhere. And I want to introduce AI in the format of business. You might not know the guy on your left, Andrew Ng, but you would thank him for the shares you own in NVIDIA. So Andrew Ng got on stage in 2015 and told the entire world, go buy NVIDIA chips. And on the right, that's what happened to NVIDIA chips. And NVIDIA's GPU was used for essentially one purpose only until today. That's training machine learning models. Okay? So this should also pique your interest. Shouldn't your sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters be involved in this explosive growth of business opportunities? Well, at least learn about it if they're not interested to be involved. Okay. So the way I look at it, from Andrew Ng's presentation is there's a long tail for everything, right? So on this map, what you see on your left is the high value services like search, advertisement, social media. These are things that grabs headlines and creates billions of dollars. But like any technology, how many of here know COBOL as a programming language? Okay, good. All right. COBOL is still running behind the scenes, behind every bank, right? So this is the long tail of technology. It's like twice as old as I am, but it's still running the banks. So in the future, the long tail of AI would touch everything from pizza delivery to not having out of stock sizes in terms of your clothes at stores, to even schools. So what I'm trying to get the students to focus on are this long tail, right? This long tail is too inconvenient for companies like Apple and Meta to invest their manpower and the intellectual property in. But to ordinary people, this is where opportunities lie. And I think this is where the future millionaires will be born into. Okay. So back to this program. I worked at Apple for 8 years, leading 4 different function teams. We had the fastest growth in China. We quadrupled our footprint, revenue, and we had a lot of PR crises that you didn't hear about. That means I did a good job navigating them, right? So So when I looked back at my career at Apple, right after COVID, I look back all the way. So I remember when I was in high school, when I was in college, there are themes that we focus on, right? So first of all, it's your well-being. So everybody here is more concerned with their kids, grandkids, your own well-being, right? And there'll also be academic focuses for them, community services for them, college application, you're aware of those, and family and leadership comes in spurs, right? Sometimes more intense than others. But you spend all this energy, all this money, all this care and attention for the future generation to do essentially one thing, to have a good career, right? So this is where I think we can teach kids skills and competencies that are relevant to their immediate job training or job opportunities. And AI is probably the biggest one of all. So the competency we're focusing on during this camp is really, we have a liberal arts based. Okay, so as you heard from Mr. Gianelli, he is essentially our North Star and wisdom anchor. And we have Peter as our visionary person. I don't know what I'm doing here. All the legworks are done by the students, but these are the three pillars we want to focus on. We want students to learn AI through entrepreneurship, doing something realistic, doing something with value, with relevancy to today's world, rather than remembering equations or doing partial differential equations. But if you're really interested in partial differential equations or fast Fourier transform, I can tutor you that. And I'm quite expensive, but I can take orders. Okay. So the first week we construct this camp, this program based on the theme of finding things. We want students to find a good problem to solve. There are tons of problems out there, and in your careers, professional careers, you must also reflect their good problems, and their problems looks like they're good problems, but they're traps, right? Bad problems. So we want them to have a good sense of what's a good problem for me to devote my time and energy and perhaps my 10, 20 years career into. We want them to find their people. Having a support system is so important for youth today. All of you probably already know the anxiety, the depression rate, and the short attention spans our generation suffer. So having a great co-founder as their company's main goal for our camp. So nobody is in this camp doing it all by themselves, because in the real world, nothing gets done by just one person. So they learn that early on. And lastly, we want them to find empathy. It's a 10-day camp. We spend 7 days on finding empathy, and I think it's too short. Others would say customer focus is the most important part of entrepreneurship. I say customer focus is just about finding empathy. I think these kids really do an amazing job finding empathy, and you will hear it all from Oliver. Second week, before second week, we wanted to make a huge mental shift for these students. Like, we're all consumers, we buy, we swipe our credit card, we go online, we consume information. We want this camp to be an opportunity for them to explore the role of a producer, right? If you really love videos, short videos online, produce one, right? Make something. That way, they direct their interest outward. And I think this is how you expand your growth and surface areas. And second week is creativity, and the theme is create. We want them to create a brand ID, right? Brand identity. We want them to create a business plan, right? And we want them to find and create their creative confidence. One of the themes at our camp is having the confidence to show unfinished work. How many of you here are artists? Will you have an artistic, creative outlet? Raise your hand. There are a few. Well, I think the thing that prevents adults from being creative or a lifelong creative person is that early on they equate artistic abilities to creativity, right? Just because we can't draw in 3rd grade doesn't mean we can't create a business. We can creatively solve problems. So we define creativity here more broadly, not artistic ability. So we want them to have the ability to show their unfinished work, receive feedback, iterate, and find help from other people. Okay? So that's 2 weeks. And I'm not the best person to explain my vision. I have a 53-second video from Steve Jobs. And at the end of the day, you can tell me if we did a good job, if Oliver fulfilled what Steve Jobs had said about the secret of life.
The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people do.
He said other people can use. Okay, so this is sort of the key and the heart and soul of our program. We want to empower young people, give them space and the right tools so they can build great things at a young age and continue to do so for the rest of their careers. With that being said, I'm going to welcome Oliver, and we probably need 30 seconds to set up his presentation.
Before we start, I just want to say I really love these orange jackets. Like, orange is my favorite color. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I need an orange suit. Like, it's just the best color of suit. And she said, get a date for prom and I'll buy you that suit. So I'm wearing gray today. But, yeah. I just want to highlight Miss Iannelli and Charles for the instruction that they gave me during this camp. I think it was really great. I know Miss Iannelli talked a lot about supply and demand, like focusing on what people need and creating a product to target that. And then Charles highlighted painkillers versus vitamins, things that will, painkillers, things that will target their needs immediately versus vitamins, things that will work in the long term. And so this is my presentation. And first of all, my name is Oliver Mudry. And this is a product that me and my team created called Grace AI. And it's meant to, it's a tutor assistant meant to help high school kids, college students, and just busy individuals. So first of all, we have our problems, and the main problems that we found is that students lack time management skills, and they don't know how to organize things. And we devised a solution, and that solution is that is to help them create task lists and to guide them to change bad habits. So we want to focus on just helping them to organize their lives. And so we've done some research, and some of our main statistics that we found is that office workers, I assume most of you guys, actually some of you guys probably, some of you guys probably stopped working for the man a long time ago. And so, office workers waste approximately 40% of their workday because they don't know what to do. They don't organize their tasks. They don't have a plan for how to eliminate them. And then the second statistic we have down here is probably the most important to our product, and that is 1 hour of planning saves approximately 3 to 4 hours of work. And I know we all like to save time, so our goal is to completely eliminate the 1 hour of planning and just skip to saving 3 to 4 hours of work. And then about 40% of adults, also you guys, I imagine you guys have kids, grandkids. You want to spend time with those grandkids. You want to spend time less time at work and more time with your families. And 40% of adults would agree with you. They said they would, if they had more free time, they would spend it with their families. And then our final statistics is that 50% of college students and then 80% of high school students don't have schedules after they go home from school. They go home from school and they just don't know what to do. They're overwhelmed with a number of tasks they have to do. And we're trying to create this tool to help them create a schedule for after school and plan out their evenings. So this is our total addressable market in the U.S. and our serviceable attainable market within the U.S. So for the total addressable market, we target high school students, college students, and then busy individuals, people who have to work. And that's in the United States, that's approximately 96 million people, which would equate to approximately $9.2 billion in revenue for our company. And the serviceable obtainable market, those are members of the communities in the high school student category, college student category, and office workers who struggle with organization of their tasks and time management. And that narrows it down to approximately 45 million people with $4.3 billion of possible revenue. So our company, I talked about it a little bit, but we're going to talk about it more here. So how it works, it's essentially, to put it simply, it's an artificial intelligence tutor. Mr. Yanelli has many years of experience tutoring, and I think and he gave me a lot of advice on how, what students would need, and so I kind of worked our product around the advice he gave me. And so how it works. So first of all, it automatically organizes tasks, so you can upload a photo of your assignments. You don't have to be a student. I know some of you write down your tasks on a piece of paper when you wake up in the morning. Just take a picture of that, load it into the software. It'll create a schedule for you, and it'll do all that for you, so you don't have to do anything. And then some of the benefits is we give better organization, so you have more free time. Again, time management, so you don't spend as much time planning. And then you also infinitely less stress. Nobody likes stress, although a little bit of stress is good. And then we all like efficiency too, so that's pretty good for our product. And then can you go back? And then our product is free. I'm sure some of you have heard the term freemium, or in-app purchases or microtransactions. We're just going to have a free app. If you want to pay for it, you can. Great. You don't need to. So our subscription plan monthly is going to be $8, and our yearly plan would be $86 discounted. And so our company has done some projections, and this might look like a lot of, actually probably, I don't know what you guys earn, but this is, if we start at a base, if we get a good marketing system up and running, start at a base of 10,000 users, we're projected to earn almost $30 million in revenue by 2028. And I know my advisor over here, Mr. Yanelli, he says they're wildly optimistic projections, but we're going to charge straight ahead. We're the bull running toward that red scarf. And so we're, for our user growth, we're predicted to, again, same statistics that go along with the revenue. We're projecting about 150,000 daily active users by 2028. So why me? Why should I be the one to launch this product? Why me? So I'm uniquely positioned to come up with something like this because I myself am a high school student. I know what it's like to struggle with organizing my tasks. I know what it's like to be overwhelmed because I don't know what to do. I know what it's like to go home and think, where do I start? And so that's what we're trying to eliminate. We don't want students confused. We don't want students, and not just students, like people. We don't want people in general to be confused on what they need to do or where they need to start. And so I know I always dread having to go home and say, Mom, I have an A in this class, and she's like, are you sure it's not a B? And so I don't want to be hesitant to show her my report card. I want to say, Mom, look, I have an A in this class, right? Right? So I don't want to have those tough conversations with my parents. I just want to. I don't even want to have conversations. I mean, okay, not that far, not that far. I love my parents. I still would like to talk with them. But about this topic, I don't want to talk with grades. I want to talk about Lord of the Rings. I want to talk about Star Wars. I want to talk about whatever I want to talk about with them. I don't want to have to talk about grades.
Who's ready for demo? You can just use it.
All right, and so this is the demo in case you were wondering what it might look like. This is my early prototype. So first of all, this is our homepage. So we have this options menu, and this is the first thing you see when you sign in. You create an account, and this is, I know, as a high school student, as a kid, I don't necessarily need a billion things on my screen. I don't need something telling me this is what your homework is going to look like. I don't need a lot. And so it's kind of a more minimal design rather than a lot on my screen. What our team created is this simple, give or take a few elements, simple design. And so how many of you have kids or grandkids? Raise your hand. Most of you, okay. So, and how many of you like to listen to music? That's a lot of you. All right, and I would assume so. Everyone likes music, which is why we incorporated this this DJ, which you can play as your background music, and you can have while you're doing your homework, so it's just not just silence. And our main goal was to make this an all-in-one program.
Hello.
Oh.
My name is Grace.
Hold on. Wow.
Hello.
This is a small screen. Okay, so our main goal was to make this an all-in-one program, so you don't have to tab over to Spotify, you don't have to open Apple Music, you don't have to open Pandora. It can be all in one program. And so some of these tracks we have, we're working on them, but you get more access. You get access to more tracks when you use our premium subscription. And we'll come back to the more customization later. So first thing I want to go to is our assignments. So this is where you upload your photo. And you can see I've already uploaded my photo. I have 21 math problems. Let's say this is my summer homework. I have 21 math problems, a 2-page English essay, and a 1-page history reading. And it's read that. I've uploaded my photo, and it's used artificial intelligence to extract the important information from my photo. And now what it'll do is, if I go over here to my schedule, it will automatically create a schedule, and you can see it's given me breaks because it's estimated how difficult the tasks are, how long they should take, and it's scheduled breaks so I don't work on one thing for too long. And then, so you can see next I've already taken my 15-minute break, so my next assignment is to do my history reading, right? And I'm reading about the French Revolution. I don't know who Robespierre is. I'm not that good of a history student. So if I want to know who he is, I can go over here to my AI assistant.
And I'm here to help you with any questions you may have about your math problems, history reading, or your English essay. My goal is to help you reach the solution on your own and not give you the answers. This way, I can provide you with the best learning possible. To talk with me, you can either type in the chat box to the right or use your microphone.
So this is our main feature, which is our Grace AI assistant. As you heard, we're aiming to help students without giving them the answers and guide them on the right path. And so you can ask her questions about anything, specifically relevant to the tasks you're doing. And then this is our This is our group chat feature, so if you're doing group projects, you can combine your efforts, so you can send messages to your friends, you can call them, you can FaceTime them, and we're implementing sending attachments and then screen sharing for easier access to each other's work. And then if it's your first time here using our product, you can navigate to our help section where it has all of our information. And then you have some features on the right. Specifically, I want to cover UI customization, which we're still working on, but at the base, it looks like this. You can select from different colors. If you don't like the base colors, you can change the text, the font. And then if you go home, you can go to our About Us, which says our mission is we strive to help people develop and maintain good habits that will change their lives forever. This is our main goal, and we want to, Charles said, Charles and Miss Iannelli see, not only do we want to make a profitable business, we want to make a business to help people, help students, help college students, people these days who struggle with, maintaining a good habits. Okay. And then can you go over to the slide, pitch deck? So our company is asking for $100,000 because we need to do a couple things. One, we need a good marketing team. I'm sure all of you know marketing is so much of the business, how you get it out there, and how you tell people, I'm here, I have a business, you should use my business. Another part of those $100,000 will be used to develop one of our comparative advantages, which is that we will make our own unique AI system. We're not going to use ChatGPT. We're not going to use any other open source chat software. We're going to develop our own Grace AI, and it will be uniquely ours. And the last part of it will be used to hire a software developer or a team of software developers to create our website and make it functional to get it out there to students. So if you have any donations, thank you.
All right, so as traditional Kiwanis tradition, we give the very coveted golden ruler to measure your future success.
Wow.
For you, sir, that's our investment. Congratulations. And Bernie, very much. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Sorry we ran a little over today. Hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you next week. We're going to vote next week. Thanks.
Thank you so much.